Hey guys, welcome back. So one of the things that I absolutely can't stand, drives me batty, is a bad fuel gauge. Fuel gauge that is not anywhere near accurate. And if you've got an old car of any kind, I think maybe especially Chevelles, you either have an inaccurate fuel gauge or you've fixed an inaccurate fuel gauge, and I'm about to take that on. So come on, check this out with me. And the reality is, there's a bunch of reasons why your fuel gauge maybe isn't working. Could be the gauge itself and the dash. Could be the wiring between the gauge and the tank. Could be the wiring at the tank. Could be the actual float or sending unit inside the tank. You can test all those things. There are plenty of areas online. ChevelleStuff.net is a great one, where you can go to find the troubleshooting to test all this stuff. But once you do that and you test and find out that your gauge is okay, like I have, and you find out that the sending unit was okay, the wiring was okay, you're really left with some questions. You see, I already went through this a while back. It was before I started the channel, but just before. I was having a problem with the gas gauge. Wasn't reading right at all. So I did some testing and found out I had bad sender unit. I got the new sender unit in, and on the advice of the internet, I tested it. Hooked it up to a voltage meter, checked its resistance to make sure that it was working, and it was. I even went ahead and checked it inside the tank. I really wanted to make sure that it was working right. But shortly after I got it in the car, it sort of stopped working right on me. And I don't know why. Now, my suspicion is that it's mechanical in nature, meaning there's something mechanically screwy with that pump, but I won't know until I get in there, and that means dropping the gas tank. Now, if you haven't dropped a tank in a Chevelle before, man, are you in for some fun. All right, so let's talk about it. And hopefully you guys can see up here with a little bit of light. You're going to have to disconnect a couple of things first. So first and foremost, before you even get this far, let's make sure you have as little fuel in the tank as you can manage. Either drive it around it so it's nearly empty, or try to siphon it off. If your tank happens to have a petcock, release it and save that gas. But it's going to make things a world easier for you if this tank is as light as possible, and it will be as light as possible if it has zero gas in it. So you want to get it as light as you can. Now, once you've gotten to the place where you're ready to go with this, you want to make sure that you come in here and dislodge the hose from the fuel tank to the fuel line. You can choose to do this however you want. In this case, I have a band clamp, a hose clamp here on the tank side that I can pry off, or I can pry off this one here, up here on this fuel side. I am probably going to pry this one off and then jam a bolt inside of that, just because it's going to be a little bit easier for me. On this other side, this is the grounding wire. So I need to get, God only knows what size bolt. Don't quote me on what size that is, because it's not stock. But I'm going to need a wrench to remove that, so that I can get the grounding wire off. And then once that's done, then we can set to loosening up this bolt and its partner over here. On the back side, the rear of the tank, the two straps hook in here. And I've already removed the bolts that go in here that retain those straps, but this is where they hook. So they're going to hinge from there, and you'll see how that works in a minute. All right, so we're disconnected, and now it's time to let this tank down. We are going to loosen these bolts up, but we're not going to take them all the way off. We're going to make sure that they stay connected a little bit so I don't get crushed. All right, so at this point, once you've loosened this, you should be able to see how heavy your tank actually is. Turns out, again, because my gauge isn't working and I can't trust it, this tank is way heavier than I thought it was. I thought I only had 1 or 2 gallons left in this tank based on the way that the gauge was reacting and how many miles I had on the tank and the mileage that I understood the car was getting. There's more than that in here. I don't know how much more, but more. So that's going to be a hazard for us. It means that this tank is going to want to come like smashing down on me. That means that I've got to get the jack under here and get this supported before I go ahead and remove those bolts the rest of the way. Safety third. All right. Steady as she goes. We're going to try this real slow. Well, not very graceful, but out of there. All right. This is that tan wire. That's our power. All right. So let's get this off the block. See if we can't slide this out. Feels like there's at least 5 gallons of gas in this. All right, so you're going to want to take off this retention ring. You may have to bash it off, depending upon how long your tank has been installed and how long it's been up there. Ours might be a little bit easier because it came off more recently. That's what I'm hoping for. So I was able to get it with a pair of pliers so it spread far enough. You may not be able to. If you're not, you can use, there is a tool you can buy online for it, but you can also use like a drift, like a brass drift. You just want to make sure that you're not using ferrous metal on ferrous metal. You just don't want to be able to create a spark here. That's our sending unit. Why aren't you working, sending unit? Let's have a look at her. All right, this calls for switching to the full-time X-ray specs here. So what we have here is, this is the float mechanism, this is the sending unit, the whole shebang. So you got your sock here, fuel sock. This is designed to protect debris and dirt and junk, rust, particles, etc. From getting into your fuel line through the tank. All right, this is a good thing. Then this is our float mechanism. So this is riding up and down on the fuel level inside of your tank. And depending upon where your fuel level sits, this float will sort of ride along it. So that's empty tank, that's full tank. So what should be happening is when you get a full tank of gas, you should be getting a full gauge signal in the tank or in the dash. And when it's down here, you should be getting an E signal. And right around here, you should be getting a mid-tank signal. What I'm getting is never ever full, so it doesn't appear to ever be hitting here all the way up. It seems like it's at best getting around here. And then it also seems like it's taking forever to get to about a half tank, and then it races to the bottom. And then once it gets around a quarter of a tank, it bounces around a lot. And doesn't give me a fair reading. So the bouncing around at the bottom, I'm used to. Like, I'm fine with that. I get that that's what's going to happen. There are no baffles in this tank, so as the fuel sloshes around, that's what you're going to get. But it doesn't seem super reactive. So we're going to see if we can't figure out what might be going on with this, and we might have to do a couple of science experiments. So one thing to note is that all your cars are going to operate on a certain resistance scale. This one you can see it's printed or stamped right on there, 90 ohms. That is what Chevy does for a lot of their cars. I know it's what they do for this year's Chevelle. And so that means that when you're reading a full signal, it should be reading at about 90 ohms of resistance. And when you're at an empty signal, it's going to be like 0 to 2. So we're going to test that out right now and see if that's true. All right, so we'll flip this to full first. And we'll go positive to negative. Looks like 72 ohms at full. 0 at empty. We might have just found our problem. So it's maxing out at 70. So, in fact, this sending unit has stopped working correctly. All right, let's figure out why. So all I did to this thing really was do a little bit of cleaning. We cleaned some contacts. The contact inside this swing arm, you can see a little copper piece that's riding along that coil. We cleaned that contact off with an emery cloth. We also cleaned off the contact that I've been measuring from, and that will meet with the power wire that comes from the car. And we cleaned off the contact for the ground. And now we're going to measure it again and see where we sit. There we go, 91.7. That's right around where we need to be at full. So this should now be working again for a while, for a bit, until it doesn't again, I guess. Well, it's something, I guess. It's not great because I don't have any faith in its longevity now. I mean, it was working before when I first put it in the car, and then it stopped. So I feel like it's going to stop again at some point. However, you know, if it does, not the end of the world. If it stops working again, then I know that my only course of action is to just get a new one. So I don't have a new one right now, and I don't want to wait for one. So let's get back in the car. So I should have one other important detail that I checked sort of off camera, and that is the depth of the tank and the reach of this pickup. So you need to make sure that this pickup tube is sitting low enough in the tank that it's actually going to pick up. It's the right size for the tank. Obviously, we know that it fits in the tank, so I know it's not too tall for the tank, but there was an opportunity or a possibility that this particular sending unit was made for a 14-gallon tank instead of a 20, and in that case, it would have been too short. However, this one is not too short. I've got about 7 3/4 inches to the bottom of the tank when I have this thing installed, and this piece from the bottom of the actual physical pickup tube, not the sock, but the actual pickup tube, to the top where it sits in the tank is a little bit more than 6 inches. So I've got about 3/4 of an inch of space before it hits the bottom of the tank, which is about right. All right, so we're just going to drive this one closed, but we're going to do it without any sparks, if we please.
Well, I guess I have to explain this little bit of butchery. See, my tank didn't actually have a vent on it before, and that was actually causing a lot of challenges when I was getting this thing filled up at the gas station. So I decided to rig up a vent tube to it, but this is not a factory correct option for this. I did get the correct little charcoal check valve to put on the vent tube, but I don't think it's the appropriate one for this tank. I didn't have all the right tubes for it at this time. I forgot to pick them up. So I'm really kind of jury rigging this thing right now. It's not perfect. It's not 100% appropriate, but I think it's going to do the trick for us right now. It's not a dangerous thing, but it's not my permanent solution. In this case, I think that's okay, since I think we all know I'm going to be back into this thing later on to replace this sending unit again. And so when that happens, I can do this the right way. That's it. So off camera, what I emptied the gas tanks, I emptied them into these 5-gallon buckets. That is what was inside the tank that dumped out. That's why you carry a fuel filter, folks. And that was the last remnants too. That was in the other bucket. So that's a bunch. But it turns out there was about 6 gallons or so of fuel in that tank still, which would be a little bit more than a quarter of a tank. And my gauge had been telling me that I was at about 1/8 of a tank or empty for the last 50 miles. So it was full of crap. All right. So we're reinstalled. We're going to climb in. There's no gas in the tank. 0. And so my gauge should read 0 when we turn the ignition on. Yeah, it is on E. Okay, so that's correct. Now we're going to dump, I think about 12 gallons of fuel into it, which should put it over half. Let's see if that works. This ought to only take a year or two. All right, we got our fuel in place. I've even given it a few minutes to let it settle. Put my tools away. Now, when we get in here and turn this key on, it ought to read at about half a tank, a little better than half a tank actually. So now we're looking for a little bit better than half full.
This is disappointing. Well, now, of course, just because everything always goes perfectly smoothly on these projects, we're not getting any reading on the fuel tank now. There's more than half a tank of gas in there, so I know it's got fuel. We're not getting a reading, so now it's time to figure out what it is. So the first thing I did was come back here. This is the fuel line, or the power line, that's coming off of the fuel tank, or at least it should be. Because the first thing I'm thinking of is I can see my ground is attached, so I know that's solid. And I know it's a good, solid, clean ground. It's all cleaned up. But I question whether or not the power plug stayed attached to the tank when we reinstalled it, and you really can't see it or get to it once the tank is installed. So I put the meter on this end of the probe, on this end of the line, and then grounded out the other end, and I'm not getting any reading on it. So no resistance. That tells me that it's been disconnected. So we are now back up in the air again, and I'm about to get under the car again, and well, we'll see if we can't figure this out. All right, let me know if you guys can see. Yeah, you can't either, right? And I certainly can't get my head in there because, you know, right behind this is the diff, so I can't get my head up there, but you can't really see to see if it's connected. So I've loosened the bolts. I've got this thing now supported by the jack. So without further ado, let's get on with the action here. All right, we're confirmed connected. And I just went up and took a reading, and we are getting a reading of a quarter tank, which is kind of concerning. But we're gonna go. I'll tell you why that's concerning is that a quarter tank reading, like no matter what, is one of the symptoms of something gone wrong. But it could just be the way that the fuel is tipped in the tank too, so I'm not gonna freak out. That's what I'm telling myself, I'm not gonna freak out. So one pro tip I can give you. One of the challenges with the A-body is that gas filler neck coming through the bumper. It's going to want to be misaligned and not clear the bumper properly, and since you're going to be under here messing with the tank and worried about bolts and stuff falling on your head, you're not going to pay attention to it. Come back to it every once and again and double check it to make sure that it's completely clearing. And if it isn't, you can just stuff a pry bar underneath the filler neck before this thing is tightened down and just bump it into place. Alright, see that? That's not really where we want it. So we're just going to bump this pry bar into here and gently move this up. While the tank is still loose. All right, time for another moment of truth, or a moment of woe. Because I'll tell you this is all I'm messing with this today. There'll be no more. All right. Ignition to the on position. You've got to be kidding me. So that is about 3/8 of a tank. So this should be reading more than half full. And it's had time to sit and settle. So I think we have a verdict. Well, I guess I'm going to continue to be frustrated by this issue because we can't get it fixed. It is effectively now doing the exact same thing that it was. There's 12 gallons of fuel in that tank, and it's reading as if there's only about maybe 4. So something's not right, but I think it is with the sending unit. So generally speaking, the gauges, if there's something wrong with the gauge itself, it's going to give you a pretty consistent wrong reading. It's just not going to work at all. And if there's something wrong with the wiring, you're gonna get the same thing because effectively something's going to ground out or not ground, which means you're either gonna get totally empty or over full. That's pretty much a sign that you've got something wrong with either your gauge or your wiring. Something electrical is that if it's reading, dead empty or dead full. There are also some issues where it can read at a quarter of a tank, where that's another set of wiring issues. But what I'm getting, this just inaccurate reading where the gauge is running and it's working, it's moving up and down, the needle's working, it's telling me there's fuel there, it's adjusting as fuel decreases and it's going down. It's working, it's just working like crap. So we're gonna get a new sending unit, but I'm gonna do my homework. We're just gonna deal with this right now as it is, and just do a good job of keeping check of the mileage when we're driving it, to make sure that we don't end up on empty. And then when I find a good, reliable, well-reviewed sending unit, I will buy that and I will put it in. And when I do, it's going to be exactly the same thing you just saw me doing today. So no need to film it. I'll just tell you that it's fixed, maybe. Wait. I thought we were done. But I got to spill the beans on this one and tell you guys about what happened in the days following me filming this video. I actually went ahead on Sunday night and did something I don't normally do, which is write a crappy review. I don't normally do that, but this is a part like I felt people should know was potentially going to fail on them after a while because it's such a pain in the neck to install. So I went on to National Parts Depot's website. That's where I bought the part from 2 years ago. And I went back on that site, put in a review, and I wasn't cutting, I wasn't horrible, I wasn't goofy about it. I just very frankly said what happened with my part, that it tested fine and worked fine initially, but the thing faded and failed over time, and I find that disappointing. Literally the next day, I found an email from NPD, a personal email from somebody at NPD saying, hey, we're sorry that you had this experience. We've actually been noticing this ourselves in this unit in our testing. We're working with our vendor to make this better. Would you be willing to send your part back to us so that we can examine it? So I wrote back to them and said, yeah, I'm thrilled that you guys would be taking the interest in it and that you would actually work to try to make this thing better so you can 100% have it. Problem is, this is currently still in my gas tank. And until I locate a new one, you're just gonna have to wait. They got back to me the very next day and said, it's not a problem, Tom. Whenever you're ready to send it back, whenever it comes out of the tank, we'll take it and we'll take a look at it. But we're gonna refund you your purchase price. So I felt like I had to tell you guys about that one. NPD is not a sponsor. I do not have a relationship with those guys at all other than regular purchaser and regular supplier, but that's it. They don't know who I am. That's pretty stand-up of them to do, to respond to that one single review, to do it within 24 hours, and then to turn around and refund me on something I bought from them 2 years ago. That's a long run for anything, let alone a $40 part. So very, very happy with those guys. The sad news to report is that I've done some digging and reference some guys in the industry who actually are really good with Chevelles and restore them. Nobody's got a good answer for one of these parts that works reliably. There is no silver bullet part. So I just bought one from Summit. That'll come in and I'll put it in, and if it works, I'll let you guys know how it goes. But in the meantime, just wanted to give NPD a shout out because that's a pretty stand-up action, and I already like them anyway, but I like them even more now. All right, guys, please like and subscribe if you would. We're up over 4,000 subscribers now, and we thank you very much for getting us to that point. I never expected us to have that many people subscribing to the channel and this many of you watching all of these videos with Declan and I, but we are very appreciative that you are there. But please like and subscribe if you would. That does help us out a lot with placement and other people being able to see the video pop up on their pages if they don't know about us already. So please do that if you could. And until the next time we see you, keep on throwing wrenches.